Okay,
Yes.
right. Can we start the session? I'll take very few minutes and we'll complete it. Right. So what you want to do is we're going to create a folder. I'm going to go and create a folder inside 70 saying activity 1. So it's session 14 and today we having our, what is the session number? It's 16, right? So we're having our 16th session. I want to create a folder saying session 16. When this is session 16, I want to go to my VS Code and I'm going to say open folder, right? So I'm going to say open folder and I'll go back 70 programming session 16 is the folder that I have to redirect, right? So I have selected that folder and the folder is empty, right? We have just created, that is a brand new folder, right? And I'm going to create a file, first file saying ex-1.html, right? So you're going to say ex1.html is must, right? So you can have any names, but the .html is must. So depending on this format or data type only, the file type is getting detected. So if I say CSS, that will be a CSS file. If I say Java, that will be a Java file. And if I say JS, that will be a JavaScript file, right? So I'm not going to write a JavaScript file directly. I'm going to say HTML file. And then we're going to include JavaScript to this, right? So we have successfully created this. And what I'm going to do is, let me show you what are we going to learn.
Sir, could you show that again, sir?
Yes,
How to
here.
make the new one, sir?
Yes, you're going to click here. You need from the beginning. So after opening VS Code, for the first time, go to File and create Open Folder, right? And then browse and select your folder location. So I have created a dedicated folder for today's session, right? Which is session 16. And I'm going to open this and I'm going to select folder. So once I did that, you will see session 16 folder structure will be here. Session 16 folder structure will be here, right? So at the moment, session 16 folder is empty. See, this is empty. And if I want to create a file inside here, I can right click and create it in this window manually, or else through VS Code also you can create that. So there are some icons that you can see here in the top. You're going to click the first icon and say ex1 to anything that you like, but .html. So HTML is must, right? So I'm going to type HTML and press enter. That's all, right? Okay. So now I'll show you what I'm going to teach you today, right? So this is what we're going to learn. 71 programming session 9 activity ex1. This is what we did. So there will be 3 buttons, and if I click on the first button, the background color changed completely into red, and the button color is also changed into red. And if I click on green button and green background, blue button, blue background, right? So here this click can be detected in many ways. I mean, JavaScript is very sensitive in capturing the event, so that is why we're calling it as a event-driven function, so an event-driven paradigm, right? So this click can be divided into many pieces, right? So for example, these are the essential parts that we can divide a click into. One, hover over, right? So if you move your cursor on top of a button, that event can be captured and triggered anything that you need. For example, when I hover, I can change the color of this background. So without clicking, before you click, if you move your cursor on top of a button, you can do something. And once you click, we call this as a mouse on mouse down. So you clicking it. So for this click, you can do something. And for release, right, we call this as a up. So for that release, you can write something else, right? So moving your mouse over is one event, clicking and holding. So pressing it to one event and releasing is one event. And moving out, there is another event. Moving in, there is another. Likewise, this specific click can be divided into many portions. And each portion can be triggered. For each portion, we can trigger many different things, right? So likewise, this JavaScript is very powerful, right? So this JavaScript is very powerful. Very sensitive informations can be captured, right? Very sensitive informations can be captured. User movement can be captured, and those simple movement we can write and write different queries to trigger some different actions, right? So first, let me show you the way of creating this basic 3 buttons. Using HTML only we're going to do that. So after creating these 3 buttons, we'll work on the events and see how these things are getting triggered, right? Okay, let's go back to this. And to have initial HTML codings, I have already, let me zoom this a bit for better understanding, and this will be more clear than to be for now, I guess. So first we're going to have the basic codings of HTML. So I'm going to type exclamation and I'm going to press enter. Right, so I'm going to press exclamation, only this symbol, and then press enter. That is how we generate the default codings of HTML. Right, no need to worry about these auto-generated codes. No need to know the meaning of these each and every line in order to write JavaScript programs that I'm going to teach you today. And no need to do anything. Only know the essential parts, right? And if you want to really know what is the meaning, I can quickly say this regarding language. UTF-8 is the charset where I did work for the symbols that you're using in the web. And these are a special meta tag which will directly support for a Internet Explorer and Edge, right? And this meta tag will be used if you're designing a website for a mobile phone, right? So in the mobile phone, white space will be removed and the content will be bit zoomed, since we have very limited space in the mobile, right? So these are not necessary. And if you having any issues in having those tags in your page, we'll remove it. Right. So now we can see doctype is the word that doctype is a tag that we use to say browser that we use in the latest HTML. And so if you say doctype, browser will know that you're going to execute some latest HTML version, right? And these are the main things that we need. Right? And I'm going to rename this as EST70EX1. Right? And we have body. Body is the place where we're going to write main thing, right? Head is the place where we call external references. Right? So body is the place where we write essential main contents, right? And script, we're going to write script in the body, but the most recommended place to write the script is end of the body, right here, right? Not at the beginning, at the end, right? So I'm going to open a tag called script to write JavaScript. You can't write JavaScript like you writing an HTML code. Right, so JavaScript must be written inside script tag, right? So here, what I'm going to do is, first thing, we're not going to write any scripts. We're going to create some buttons, as we decided, right? So I'm going to say button, right? This VS code will help you to generate the HTML codes, right? So automatically you will find open tag, close tag, and the cursor selected in the MIDI, and it's asking for the button name. So you're going to type your button name down. Right, so we have successfully created a button now, right? So how can I see this created button in the browser? You're going to go back to your file directly. You can see the created exercise. You're going to double click on that. So automatically the default browser icon will be detected, and if you double click, it will open in the browser. So now you can see we have a button called red. So nothing is happening, but there is a button, right? So I need another 2 buttons to be created. So I can say copy paste, and I'm going to say red RGB, right? So I'm going to say red, green. There is no proper order. Just I wanted to call this as RGB, right? So Mulika Varna. So that is how we call in single. I don't know. And Moola Varnangal in Tamil. Right, so maybe you heard about that. Akhil, okay. So RGB, red, green, blue, those are the main 3 colors. So using those 3 colors, we can generate any colors that we need, right? So that is not the purpose that I selected these 3 colors, just randomly selected, right? There are no special reasons behind these 3 selections, right? Okay. I will go back and refresh. Right? So there are 3 buttons in the same row. If you need these buttons to be separated into different rows, you're going to say BR, right? Just BR, that's it. Then what will happen? After red, I have BR. Then if I refresh, other buttons will be moved down to another row, right? So I don't want those things to be separated. We'll keep in the same row, right? Now, I'll go to my JavaScript area here, and I'm going to create a function. So when you if you want to create a function in JavaScript, you're going to say function, and the function name. So how you want to call this function, right? So I'm willing to call this function as red. Since I have a red button, I need this red button to connect with this function. So I'm going to call this as red. So better we'll name it using Pascal case, right? And open close bracket. We're not going to pass any parameters now, not advanced program we're going to write, basic one, right? So function name, open close bracket, curly bracket, open and close. So within these 2, you can write whatever you need. That will happen if you call red, right? If you call red, whatever you're going to write between these 2 curly brackets will happen. So I'm not going to say anything other than alert. So alert is the one that we're using in JavaScript to print it as a pop-up. So we have already experienced in writing document.write, where that will be printed in the body, and console.write, where it will be printed in the console. So alert is the one that we using to pop it. There will be a window, small window will pop in your screen and say your message, whatever you write within the bracket. So I'm going to say open bracket, double quotations, close double quotation, and I'm going to say clicked red button. Right. So you have clicked red button. So as a short form, I said clicked red button. So if you want to come up with proper word, you can type anything that you like here. Right. So now we have 2 things. I mean, we have 3 buttons and we have 1 function created. We'll refresh and see whether it will happen something. No. Still these 2 are independent. We are not connected yet. So how can we connect this? How can I connect this function with this button? That's very simple. You're going to keep your cursor after the word button before closing this bracket, right? Before closing this bracket here, right? So we're going to type on mouse, then it will suggest you what are the options that you can have, right? So you want me to capture the event when they click down, or when they click move, when they move, or when they move out, when they move their cursor on top of, that is what we call over, or when they click and release, not while they clicking, once they released. So I need once they click, do something. So I'm going to select my first option. So once they click, do something. So we're going to come and select this. What do you want to do? Call this. Right? So you already said when to do that. Now we're going to say what to do. So what is that thing that you're going to do? Call this function. Copy function name and paste it within the double quotation. That is what you're going to do. Then if someone clicked, this will happen. Right? So now we'll go back, refresh. Don't forget to refresh, then only latest code will be updated. And if I click on this red, we get this message. So this is how alert will be displayed. I'm going to click OK. And when I click on green, blue, nothing is happening. But when I click on red, that is getting triggered. Whatever we have written within the bracket will get triggered. This will work. Right? So whatever you write here will happen. Now we have only alert. But if you asked JavaScript to change the background color, it will do it. And if you need something else to happen, that will happen, right? Whatever you ask, whatever instructions given within these two curly brackets will happen. Right? So let me do that for these two buttons as well. Right? Same thing. So what I'm going to do is, let me finalize the functions. First, I'm going to say function, and I'm going to say green and this. So I'm going to copy this same alert. Right. So when you're creating it for the first time, better type it without copy and paste. So that is another way of remembering the codes. Right? That is even, I can remember, but I'm still typing and showing you. I want you also to do that. And I'm going to say you clicked on the green button. You have clicked on the blue button. So we should have a different message. So that is how I customized it. And if I want to call this, or if I want to connect this function to this button, you know what you want to do. Right? Very simple. You want to click here and space on mouse down and call the function name. If you are not confident enough to type it in your own, all right, I am having that issue, right? So I'm having issues in memorizing this when coming and typing it, right? So that is why I'm copy and pasting. You can even type. And if you trust in yourself, you can type this without copy and paste, but I don't trust me. So I'm going to copy and paste, right? So we have just called these three functions inside the button. So if someone clicked, this will happen, right? So let's go back and refresh. Click green. They're saying you clicked on the green button. That's correct. You clicked on the blue button. Okay. So now you can see.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I don't get it on my screen like red, green, blue, even though I have written .html in my file name.
Have you got same set of codings that you can see in my screen?
Language English, except that.
Yeah, even I don't have that again. You have HTML open, right?
Yes, sir, I do. Sir, I had language English in that. I'll try again after deleting it, sir.
No, you can have language English. That is not an issue. Can I see your codings? Can you copy and paste your coding in the chat?
Sure, sir.
you have not saved your file. That is the problem.
So how to save it, sir?
Just press Ctrl S
Okay, sir.
and refresh your browser. It should work. Can you let me know whether it is working?
Yes, sir. After I press save, now it's working, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Yeah. You know how I identified it, and for others too. If you have this kind of circle instead of X, it's mean you have not saved your file, right? So that is how I identified it. See, in my one, there is a X. It's not becoming oval, round, even though when I make changes. The reason I have enabled auto save in my VS Code, right? I didn't show you that. That's my problem, right? So see here, there is an option called auto save. You're going to check this box, right? You're going to check here. See, I don't have that enabled. If I click it again, it's like I have enabled it, right? So if you enable it, after each and every modifications, see, when I disable, if I type something, this will become oval. It is indicating that you have not saved your file. So once I press Ctrl S, that will be changed, right? So if I enable, I have an issue in pressing Ctrl S every time that I modify. So I'm going to make this automated. So now no need to save each and every, no need to save after each and every modification. Right? So consider enabling if you feel that is useful to you, right? Okay. So now we have 3 buttons and we have 3 functions, and we have if I click, those functions are getting triggered, right? It is working, right? Now we have tested click. What if I want to change that into over, right? If I move my cursor over this button, I should get that message, right? So I'm going to go back to my this thing, and I'm going to say hover over. Just I'm using over. So I'm going to change this on mouse down to on mouse over, right? So if someone moved the cursor on top of that specific button, run this function, right? So I'm going to go back to my browser, refresh, and when I click, this happening for green and blue. But when I move my cursor over, I didn't click. See, when I move, it's getting triggered. See how easy it is and how powerful it is. See, when I move my cursor around, nothing is happening. When I move on top of the button, it is coming. But I'm not clicking it, right? So that is over. Right? And there's another thing that I'm going to show you. On mouse out, or we're going to say maybe up, I guess, not out, up. So the meaning of out, so I'm going to say out here, right? Meaning of up, up. The meaning of up is when I click, nothing will happen. Once you release your click, only that will happen, right? So go back. So when I move very fastly, that is also detected. So I'm going to go from the corner to refresh this. Right? If I move on top of that, the message will be generated. Right? So I'm going to go all the way around to click this refresh. Right? So when I click on, when I click on this button, before releasing, for blue I'm saying, for the previous one. So when I click on this blue, before releasing, that message is coming, right? But when I click on green, no message is coming until you release. See here, when I release if I take my finger out from the mouse, mouse button, then only this will come. That is the meaning of up. All right. So click is different. So if you press, that will happen. If you press, nothing will happen until you release. So if I release, this up function will be triggered. So for red, no need to do anything, just move your mouse on top of that. This function will be reacted. Right. So now I don't want just the message to be passed. Right. So we have created, we have connected, and we have tested all three different types. There are many things that you can test, but for a basic, I need these three to be I want to show you these three, right? Since the paradigm name itself is event driven, right? So event, how these are getting triggered. So that is the main thing that you want to know in this paradigm, right? Okay. Next one. If someone called red, don't just display the message alert. You're going to do something. So what are you going to do is, you're going to say document dot body dot. So do something in the body, right? Don't display a message. You're going to do something in the body, and what you're going to do in the body, change the background color. So for formatting works, right? For applying format, you know what you mean by formatting works in Word. Applying underline, bold, italic, changing the color. So for those kind of things only we're calling formatting works, right? So for in web development, for this industry, I mean for this area, for web development area, for formatting work, we're calling it as styles, right? Style is the name that we're using. Style is the term that we're using for formatting work. So I'm going to say document mean in the body area, in the working area, right? So in this area only we calling document, right? So in the document and in the body tag, inside this tag, change the style, right? Background, what is the style that you want to edit? I'm going to say background color. I'm going to change the background color into some colors, maybe red. So if someone called this function, apply this. So now we're going to go and refresh. So move around and click on this refresh and move around and hover your mouse over. Right. So once you did that, that became all red. And we didn't trigger these things yet with the colors. It's still that pop-up message is there, but we're going to apply that too. Okay. So I'm going to go back and say the same thing again. See here. First you're going to say document. So that is how we're going to call the content, which is to be changed in the working area, in the content displaying area, white color area. And in that, select body, where we're going to apply, and change the style. What is the style field? I mean, what is the style feature that you want to change the background? Not the foreground color, not the picture, not anything. You're going to change the background color into what value? What is that value? This time it's not red, it's green. Right? So I'm going to go back, refresh, and this will not happen like red. You're going to click, still it's not happening. You release, it will happen. Go back. And I'm going to do that same thing again. So document dot body dot style dot background color is blue now. Refresh and click. Right. So these two I have to click, and this one I have to move my cursor over. So let's go back and change this. All three. Now I don't want to click any buttons. I have to just move my cursor over. That's what you call the buttons. So let me refresh. Now you will find the entire screen like a signal light in the road. But you don't get green and blue color, right? Orange. That's just a matter of moving it. Maybe your eye, the duration of the healthiness of your eye will go. if you keep on calling these similar colors, these are very bright, right, depending on the brightness of your screen, right? So I'm going to change this entire red into bit dull color, where where the users will not feel disturbed, right? So we have different way of calling these colors, right? So one, using the color name, next using hexadecimal code. Right? Where can we find that? That's very simple. Go to Google. We have Google, and we're going to say hex colors, or you can say hexadecimal colors in full form. As a default, they have one way of copying it, right? So you can adjust these points. I'm going to move all the way to the corner, which is red. If you move to this corner, it is same red, right? So I don't want the same red. I need some off colors without full bright. I need people to see it as red, but still there's a small mix with red, white and black, right? So once you finalize the color, you will see the color here, right? The pointer is displaying here. You can click and move this, and here you can see the selected colors: hexadecimal code, RGB code, CMYK, and I have never used these two. That I can't exactly have hue, saturation, and something. And here I can't exactly remember. So RGB in how many percentage of red you have, and green you have, and blue you have, right? CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So we'll be learning about these things in future. In coming semester, I'm going to teach you WDD, website design and development. That time I'm going to deeply talk about these colors, right? So for the moment, copy this with hash, copy this, right? And go back to editor, delete red and paste that code here. Then whatever color that we selected will be displayed here. Now it's bit smooth. This red is bit smooth compared to the previous one. So I'm going to copy a bit green, a good green, right? So I'm going to go and keep my cursor here, and maybe I'm willing to have this. So go back, paste. At the same time, I need a nice blue. So maybe this. So go back, refresh. Now we're getting three colors, which is not disturbing like before, but still disturbing. Yeah, I agree. Still it's disturbing, but not as before. I'll paste the name. I'm going to say Google searched what. So that is the keyword that I searched in the Google. You can use that if you need. Right? So that is how we're going to trigger things. Right? So that is how we're going to trigger things based on your user's actions. Right? So you know what is happening in the code, right? So I can give you the code. You're going to try it in your PC. I'm not going to copy and paste. You also will do the same thing. You'll copy, paste, run, and you'll shut down your PC. I need you to type and see, right? So I'm going to keep my cursor here, and I'll get you this set of coding whatever I did, right? I think that's enough. Right, selected area. These are the codings that you have to type in your PC to run the program. Right. So even I can consider giving you the output so that you know which program I'm talking really about later if you watch this. right? Okay, so that is all about first exercise. And second one, what I have is this, and you can turn light on and off. See how nice it is, right? You can turn on the light and you can off your the selected light, right? So just it is two pictures getting transferred, right? So based on the click, right? So I'm changing the picture based on the user selection, right? So if they click this, I'm going to display a different image. If they click this, I'm going to display a different image, but in the same place. So you can't see any difference other than the light inside this gray color area. So it's like you turning on and off, right? So if you want to find this kind of picture, you're going to search it here. You're going to say maybe bulb PNG on off. See, I have that search result already. And the very first image that you can see here is regarding light on off, right? So you can see I have maybe selected this, and I did a small work. I have added this into Photoshop and removed the background and took these two pictures out, right? So there are people, those who studied Access program with me, right? There are people, Nalindra and all those who studied Access program with me. Maybe I have taught you Photoshop. No, this is not the lesson to teach you Photoshop, but later I'll consider teaching you some if you really need to know what exactly can be done using Photoshop, right? So I'll give you these two pictures to your chat. You can download and use that. Right, so you can download these two PNG files and you can use that, right, in your works. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, I need this interface to be created first, right? Don't forget about the background color. I'm not going to apply that. So this interface, I need the picture to be inserted and these two buttons to be inserted. So let me create a brand new file, right? And let me bring these two pictures into the folder that I created in CST70 session 16 here. So automatically that will be displayed here in my list. All what I have in the folder will be displayed as a list, right? So I'm going to go and create another exercise saying ex2.html and all the default codings, and I'm going to remove whatever that will disturb you, right? So having is the proper way, having those codings in the file is the proper way of designing, right? So you should have those generated files, codings, right? Since it is kind of confusing, only I removed it. So after having proper knowledge in what do you call in HTML and CSS, you're going to keep that, right? Those are very useful tags. Okay, so the window is ready, and in the body there are some things to be done. So first I have to import a picture. So to insert a picture, you're going to say img. So by saying this img, there are some codings will generate automatically, right? One source and alternative text. So source means src is the path that your picture is in, right? So my picture is there inside my same folder. Inside my same folder, I have this file here, HTML file. In the same folder only I have the picture. Then no need to mention the complete path. You're going to only mention the name of the image. So first I'm going to keep the window in the off stage. Light will be off in the first stage. So I'm going to call this. Right? So I'm going to say off .png is the format. There are different formats that you can find in future. JPEG, we call it as JPEG, PNG, GIF, there are many, right? SVG, TIFF. So PNG is the format where it will keep transparent as it is. Right? Transparent area will remain as transparent if it is PNG. If it is JPEG, automatically white color will be added in the transparent area. Right. And what is the purpose of having alternative text? If something went wrong to the picture that you insert, whatever text that you're going to type here within the double quotation will be displayed. For example, light, you're going to say bulb or light status off, or light bulb status, because I'm going to say on. We're going to put on and off to the same place. So I'm going to say light status, something like this. Right? Then if something went wrong to the picture in your host or in somewhere, this message will be, this text will be displayed to them. Right? So let's go back and run that. Let's go there and open this. There's a huge light. I don't want this much big. So I'm going to adjust that. So you can adjust it by typing width width. I'm going to have 100 pixels. That's enough, right? So 100 pixels width. No need to say height. Automatically height will be adjusted. Right. Next thing, I'm going to create a button. So I'm going to create a button saying on. Let's see. We have a small button here. Right, so I'm going to put this button somewhere down. So I'm going to say after this BR break, so button will be moved to another row, and I'm going to say another button. I'm going to create another button saying off. We have two buttons here. Right, so now that is what we needed. That is what needed. See, same interface. Right, now what I'm going to do is, we have to write functions here. What is the first function that I'm going to write here is a function and on. Here, function off. In the function on, I'm going to print an alert and see whether it is working. So I'm going to say clicked. And here also I'm going to say clicked off. Right. Okay, so let me connect these two functions here. You know, very simple. On mouse down, and I'm going to call the function name. Whatever we did, I'm repeating as it is. Right. So on mouse down. And I'm going to say, I'm typing in without copy and paste. Okay, so I'm going to go back and see whether those buttons are responding properly. Right? Yes, clicked off. So these just to check whether we have successfully connected this button and the function. So we did that, and we're going to remove. That is only for experimental purpose. We have removed the coding. So now we're going to search Google to teach us the way of right. All muted. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to ask Google the way of changing the path in JavaScript. So I'm going to say JavaScript right, and change image src. Okay, and that will get you a coding here. See? Okay. So there is another thing to be done now, right? So before writing this code, I'm going to say, in the previous exercise, what I did is called body, right? What I did here is I have called the body and asked the body to change the color, right? In this entire exercise, in this entire coding file, I have only one body. I have only one body. So no need to say which body that you're talking about. Right? We have only one body tag. So we're going to call that and change the chapter close. Right? So if I call only that body and if I change the color, that's all we have to say. But in here, you can't do that. Right? So we have only one image. So why can't we do that? Right? So we have an issue in detecting this kind of subtags. Right? This kind of subtags cannot be detected directly like you detecting a body. Right? So now we're going to have a unique identifier. Right? You're going to have a unique identifier to capture the image, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say call this person and change the path. So that is what I'm going to instruct here, right? Call this person and change the path. How I'm going to call it? We need a name, right? So we need a unique identifier in this code, in this line, to call this here, right? I can't simply say body, since body are top level tags, so which is there as a structural tags where directly you can call, but these are inserted inside. So you should have proper name, or we call it as ID to call that. So that is the unique identifier of the HTML tag. We calling it as ID, or we can call it using name, but the best way to call it using ID. Right? So I'm going to create an ID, a unique identifier for this row, and I'm going to use that created unique identifier inside my JavaScript to call that. Right? So where to create? Anywhere inside these brackets. So make sure you're doing it after IMG, or maybe after SRC, after everything here, or maybe at the beginning. It's up to you. Okay? So I'm going to say ID. Right, so I'm going to say ID and create any IDs that you need. So it's not mean by you need to insert only numbers. Right, so I'm going to say bulb status. Bulb status is the ID name of mine. It's not bulb, it's bulb. So I'm going to say bulb status is the ID name of this entire row. So if I say bulb status in anywhere in the program, it's mean by you calling this row. Then you can have anything, but you should not repeat the same thing again in the same document. It should be unique. You can't have two bulb status. You can't name another component using the same exact spelling. Right? So I'm going to call this now. Right? So before calling that, you're going to say document dot get element by. So these are different elements. Get element by, or detect the element by its ID. So I'm going to say get element by ID, or you can get the element by using the name, or tag name, or tag name index, right? So tag name, we have only one image, so we can try even this. So I'm going to go and say ID. Now mention the ID. What is that ID name? Bulb status is the ID. So go and find that bulb ID and change the SRC. So change this, right, into on.png. So that is the picture name. right? So change from off.png to on.png. So that is the simple thing that you're going to do, right? So if someone clicked on this, change the src of the selected element into this. That is what we said, right? So let's go back and see whether it is working. Refresh on, right? So if someone clicked on off, change that src element. So I'm going to say document dot get the element by id. So what is the id name? I'm going to say bulb status is the id name, and I'm going to say dot src, change the path. Don't change the alternative text, don't change width, even though you can change this by calling it here, right? So this id is change src. So if I say dot alt and did something, this will be changed, right? So I'm going to say src equal into on.png, off.png, sorry, off.png. Okay. Then what will happen is, if someone clicked on this button, this will be triggered, and if this will be triggered, because of this row, this src will be changed into off, right? So if by clicking this will be changed into on. So by clicking this only, this will be redirected back to the original state. So I'm going to go back and refresh on off.
Hello.
Yes.